Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. And finally back once again, getting ready for 2018, finalizing my setup on Facebook Live, both on my platform for prescription for your transformation, as well as my own page. And what's exciting is this is a phenomenal opportunity for all of us just to really share information, share ideas. We've essentially democratized the information flow, if you will. We all now have this availability at our hands so that we can have genuine conversations all over the world regarding things that really totally matter to us. And that is precisely the reason, for this platform. And I'm excited to have found this opportunity and make it all possible. One of the key things that I find that's really important is finding those authentic conversations out there, finding this platform where you really can, witness what it is that other people are talking about. And I'm also trying to figure out this one last thing here. Oh, here we go. Hold on 1 second. This is what's wonderful about this platform. You can just totally mess up and it's just okay. I'm learning that process of being able to mess up and just go with the flow and want to have Sedona right next to me. So I'm really delighted again to be connected with Sedona, and so that we will have a conversation ourselves. Normally I have people that I interview, which is a wonderful thing. I slacked off lately because I've been traveling all over the place and really have not been able to focus on this platform. But a resurgence for 2018 is happening, and this is what today is really all about. What is 2018 all about for you? This is an interesting month because it's the end of one full year, and at the end of the year, perhaps, of all these wishes and dreams that you started off at the beginning of the year, and now it's time to reflect, what is it that we actually accomplished? What is it that you actually accomplished during the last year? And so let us start off, and I'm going to work together with Sedona on this, is going through some of the things that I believe are helpful for us to begin to reflect, taking into account what was 2017? What did it mean to you? What did you get out of it? A variety of different things, because oftentimes what does happen is that we don't recognize, the greatness of our own life, the greatness of our own experience, the magic moments that we get to experience. Oftentimes we're really simply focused on all the negative. I know I, for one, am more easily critical of myself, of my environment, than I am positive. And perhaps this is somewhat of a survival mechanism that a lot of us have. Yes, I'm a very optimistic person, for sure. I look to see where the opportunity of life happens. I also look to see where greatness happens. But when it comes to myself, I'm oftentimes, quite critical. And so the truth is that oftentimes we will forget, we will neglect, we will deny the greatness that happens in our lives. So one of the things that I always suggest to people, especially when I'm in the coaching process with them, is, what are you grateful for? What are the things that you can specify on a daily basis, in fact, what you are grateful for? And so let me put that to the test with Sedona. If you look at 2017, what are perhaps some of the things that you are grateful for?
There's a lot that happened in 2017. Towards the beginning, I celebrated my third anniversary in March. And then a couple months after that, I finished my Teen Talk experience. That was the radio show that I got to do here. And then I got to do an internship after that, which rolled into summer. And from there, I was employed here. I got to do some other internships at the Arizona Film Office. I graduated high school. That's always a big step. Chose what college I was going to, ended up at the Cronkite School, and I've done a lot thus far there. And I actually just yesterday finished up my first semester.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
it's a lot.
So I really want to compliment you, Sedona, because oftentimes when I talk to people or ask people about what they're grateful for, there's always a little bit of a struggle. Like, oh my gosh, now I got to think of something. And quite frankly, that happens to me as well. And so when we begin to appreciate, what we can be grateful for and do this on a regular basis, then we can also find things that we typically don't think about. Well, like, the fact that you have 2 feet and 2 legs, and be grateful for the fact that you can move around, because there'll be one day that you may not be able to run, but you'll only be able to walk. And then one day you won't be able to walk and you'll only be able to sit down. And so looking back at 2017 is also the springboard as to what is it that you can look forward to 2018. And one of the questions that I often ask is, what are some of the things perhaps in 2017 that you're really excited about, that you're really proud about, that you might want to experience once again in 2018? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really, really liked my intern experience, and I just got word that I'll be able to continue that at the beginning of 2018 and hopefully throughout the summer. I've been filling out applications left and right. I'm going back to work at some restaurants, which is kind of nice because I kind of miss that experience a little bit. And I love being at the Cronkite School, and I'll get to continue doing that in 2018. And I'm really excited to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right. Awesome. So for any of the listeners on Facebook or on the radio, decide for yourself, what was great about 2017. Who did you become during that period of time? What were some of the great things that you got to experience? What are the magic moments that you had, where you were able to experience? And what are the things that you want to continue? So these are moments of beingness. These are experiences, whether it's in the form of, business achievement, whether it's the form of, types of experiences with your loved ones, your relationships, all these things. So start taking an inventory of all those great moments that you had in 2017 and set out a plan for 2018. So not wait till 2018 happens, not wait till these things are basically an afterthought, but really intentionally decide, okay, what is it that I want to experience once again in 2018? Whether it's a special vacation in some faraway land, or somewhere in the United States, or just here at home, whether there's sport events, things like that. And just reminding yourself, what was great and perhaps what you want more of. Perhaps you only had one of these events, last year or this year, and maybe it's a matter of wanting a lot more of them, next year. So another thing that we get to focus on are what are the things that we didn't like? What are the nasty moments, the stuff that made us uncomfortable, things that we didn't like, that maybe the things that you were fearful of. What are some of those things? Go ahead.
There really wasn't a whole lot to dislike. There were, I mean, I guess I don't like finishing up the semester. That's always the hard part. Those are when the tough finals come and stuff. There was kind of a nasty situation towards the middle of the year where I lost a good friend, so I hope that I don't come across that experience anytime soon again. But other than that, pretty good year.
Nice. And when it does come to, unfortunate experiences, one of the great questions that we can always ask about those more specifically is, if I look back on this particular experience, am I happy with the way that I showed up? Am I happy with the things that I did, during that time? And when you can say yes, that means that you are in that place of quite great intention for yourself and also in alignment and with your own personal integrity. And that's great. But if you weren't, looking back, reflecting back, and deciding for yourself, what if this situation happened once again? What would I do differently in 28? So this is not a question for you, particularly Sedona, but it's really important for all of us to be more proactive in the way that we show up in life. Because the truth is that we can easily take this victim role as to having things happen to us. Inevitably things are going to happen in life. Change happens, it's inevitable. And so it's really a matter of, how do you actually show up? What is that role? And unfortunately, we don't always have all the right information so that we can make the right choices. Unfortunately, we don't always have the right mental states so that we can make the right choices. But those experiences, those are great experiences that we can always learn from. And taking inventory of that, just checking in with yourself and say, you know what? I could have done this differently, and this is what I could do in the future. So once again, not denying the fact that we're humans, not denying the fact that we make mistakes, not denying the fact, that we have our own flaws. And when we can learn from those so that we get to show up in a much better way, that's what's key. And again, 2018 is not just about, okay, what is it that I want? Not just making that list of the things that you want, but really understanding what 2017 was all about. Who did you become? Who did you want to become but didn't become? So that with great intention, you can start putting out that intention for 2018. So it's important, to understand this beingness. And oftentimes I get caught off guard because I get so busy. I get into this routine of business, doing all these different things, whether it's coaching, whether it's my surgery, whether it's my stem cells. And sometimes I forget, who am I really meant to be in this moment? So it's not being present. It's just going through the same ritual every single day, getting up at a certain time, getting breakfast, going to work, and whatever. And so staying focused on who were you in 2017? What kind of person were you? If you were to characterize yourself over the last, 12 months and decide, what? These were great qualities. These were great attributes. This was a great person. And then, launching forward in 2018 and deciding, who do you want to become? Who do you want to become more of? One of the things that I like to do when I coach my clients, and they oftentimes struggle with this question, is it's a question I usually start off with on the very first, minute or two of my coaching call, is I ask them, what's great about you? What are 10 non-achievement related things that are great about you? And so if I were to ask you that, Sedona, right now, what are 10 great things about you that's non-achievement related? And one that I can think of to give you an example is you're creative, you're motivated, you're inspired. So what would say 7 other ones be for you?
Wow, that's a lot harder to.
See, and this is typical of all my clients, that when they get this question the very, very first time, because we're not used to telling ourselves what's great about us. And if I take my own example, I'm compassionate, I'm empathetic, I'm focused, I'm determined, I'm disciplined, I'm loving, and creative and generous. These are some things that I consistently connect with. And most of us forget, how great we really are. Oftentimes we're way too critical about ourselves. But what's interesting, when you focus much more on what's great about you, because I know you've got tons of those qualities, by the way, we become more of that. And it's interesting how then that energy of your greatness radiates even more to others, that also captivates other people. So I've given you an extra minute to think about what's great about you.
I like to think that I'm pretty understanding. Um, I have, um, I guess, people have told me that I'm pretty easy to talk to. That
Are you easy to talk to?
I hope so.
Why do you believe that?
um, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
so I'm easy, I'm approachable, I'm easy to talk to. So rather than having somebody else say it, you decide what your greatness is.
How many more do I have?
I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to let you off the hook.
um,
Well, you're smart, right? There you go. I gave you one. You're intelligent. So, but it's interesting, and I really want to point out to all the listeners out there that it's difficult, and I still have that difficulty in looking at what my greatness is, and I'm not as consistent as I would like to be. And when I'm in a funk or when I'm just, low energy, it's also because I'm not focusing on what's great. I mean, you have to invest in yourself. And it's interesting because there's this term called selfishness that most people are reluctant to really, think about themselves first. But when you think about it, you got to think about yourself first. You got to take care of yourself first so that you can actually take care of others at an even higher level. And it's also about self-actualization. So what's your personal involvement, whether it's spiritual or intellectual or emotional, so that you become more of who you really want to be? It's that 10 times the factor inside of you that's not being expressed or manifested when it can. So said differently, there's 10 times more inside of you that's available just if you knew how to get to it. And so focusing on what's great is then key. So looking back at 2017, one of the things that I ask my clients is, what is incomplete in 2017? What are some of the things that you decided upon early in the year or maybe back in 2016? These are goals, these are outcomes, these are desires, these are dreams. You've got not 30 days, you got 25 days left in the month, or 24 days left in the month to accomplish those goals in 2017. And what's interesting too is that, rather than slowing down at the end of the year, why not speed up? Why not finalize those outcomes, those goals that you really wanted to accomplish, but for whatever reason didn't, and really find the time to make those things happen? It's almost like if you speed up towards the end of this year, then you've developed momentum for 2018. And that's key. Oftentimes, what people are thinking, well, let me slow down. It's the end of the year. I've worked hard. Question is, have you really worked hard? I mean, did you do your best in 2017? I mean, is there still room left in 2017? And you know the truth. The truth is, yes, there is, at least for most of us. And so deciding to, have that integrity with self, making a decision or any decision you made in 2017 and deciding for yourself that I'm going to complete those decisions as long as they're practical. Sometimes, obviously, you can't because there's not enough time. But giving yourself the reality check, were these things important enough that I made that decision early on in the year, that I wanted to complete them, and give yourself the opportunity really to do that for yourself. Develop that momentum for 2018 so that you're actually, running at the beginning of the year versus on New Year's Eve deciding what 2018 is all going to be about, and then have a hangover for the first month, right? So one of the things that is really important is, how do you set yourself up to win in 2018? And understanding, that there are many strategies out there for success. And I think what happens way too often is that we set ourselves up with too lofty goals. And the unconscious mind is going to process these goals and say, hey, this is not going to happen. Forget it. Don't even worry about it. Don't even try to make any of this happen because it's not. And so what invariably happens is that you have a lot of motivation at the beginning of 2018, but you lose that motivation very, very quickly. And traditionally, people who decide that they're going to lose the weight, they're going to start working out, for the most part, most people will stop, working out within the first month. And that's with a lot of other things in life. And keeping up that intention, keeping the goals being very specific and easily accomplished is going to be key. And so one of the things that we talk about is, do it in 3-month chunks. Do it in quarters. What are your goals for the first 3 months? Making them realistic, making them achievable. And having different strategies for yourself to make sure that you're held accountable to getting those goals accomplished. One of the key things in success is making your goals, your outcomes, public knowledge in a sense, and so that others will keep you accountable for those outcomes. Because we often do more things for others than we do for ourselves. We often want to maintain our reputation because our reputation is key. And when we tell other people we're going to do a certain thing, and then when we don't, then that affects our integrity, that affects our reputation. So having an accountability partner is one of the most effective things to make sure that we accomplish our goals. The other thing is, what are your resources? So planning ahead, planning right now in end of 2017, setting yourself up, okay, what kind of resources am I going to have to tap into? There is a key point that many people actually forget when it comes to resources. Oftentimes people will say, look, I don't have the resources. I don't have enough money. I don't have the education. I don't have the connections. And you may not have those connections right now. You may not have the money right now. You may not have the education right now. But it's your resourcefulness that's going to help you get access to all those different things. And to lie to ourselves and to stop us in achieving our outcomes simply because we tell ourselves we don't have those resources, that's really cheating yourself. And so the key here then is really identifying, okay, what are my strengths? What do I have available to myself right now? What are the things that I don't have? And what is it that I need to create so that I can achieve those outcomes? What are your thoughts so far about what I just shared with you, Sidonia?
I think it's a point that sometimes don't realize that they can find the resources that they need. That's definitely one excuse that I use a lot, and I know I do. One thing that I didn't accomplish well, that's not necessarily true. I have done better towards the end of 2017, but in the beginning, I did not eat very well, and I did not drink enough water, and I've gotten better about it, but still not where I need to be.
And you have a lot of great excuses for that, right?
Yep. All of them.
So it's interesting when we come up with these excuses, and that's going to lead to my next point. Because obviously, if we want to change our lives, obviously, if we have certain outcomes that we know are the right ones for us, we're going to have to make a decision about what are some of the things that we have to give up. And, committing to changing that, committing to letting things go. So me, for example, I love bread. I love white bread, French bread, all the kinds of breads, wheat bread, 5-grain bread, whatever it is. And it's one of the hardest things for me to give up. But unless I give that up, I'm not going to change my weight. Unless I give up certain other things, I'm not going to change my weight. And it's with anything else. Sometimes, when we have these goals that require a lot of our time, what are some of the fun things you may have to give up? And so it's understanding, right, that if you want certain outcomes, it has to come at a certain cost. And then deciding what that cost is in advance is going to be key, because if you're going to be constantly thinking about the cost as you go along, it's going to be a lot harder for you to stay motivated and consistent with your actions. And so that leads me to the other thing, which I sometimes struggle with, and just being really transparent and honest, is, why I haven't achieved the things that I haven't achieved quite as much is, and my coach brought this up, Coach Cooper, and that is, the strength of purpose. What is the purpose behind the goals and the outcomes that you have? Having clarity of that purpose is key. What is it going to give you? What is your reward for that? And the reward ultimately is, who do you get to become? What do you get to experience? And in particular, what is that emotion that you get to feel? And really connecting with that. But what's also interesting in looking at your outcomes is also realizing the things that you want to give up, the things that no longer happen in your life, the things that you get to lose. And one thing is perhaps financial constraints. If you're successful in one way and you have a great revenue, that means you're losing the lack of freedom. You're losing the stress of not having enough. You're losing the stress of living paycheck to paycheck, or whatever that is for you. And so not only do you have to know what you're going to want to give up, but you also get to know the things that you really want to give up to make your life on a much better way. So looking at your outcomes and looking at the fact that, the strength of purpose and the emotions that you get to feel, there's an important part to all of this. And again, it's something that oftentimes becomes an afterthought for many of us. I think the most successful people have this really well dialed in. And that is, how do you reward yourself? What is it that you decide in advance that when you achieve your outcome, I'm going to reward myself with a particular thing? When my mistake in the past was, great, you know what? I made a great bonus this year, so let me now spend it on X, Y, Z. And not giving myself the plan in advance to say, look, once I get this outcome, that's when I get to celebrate. So celebration for me in the past was an afterthought, and it has a very different meaning than when you decide in advance how you get to reward yourself, because that develops a lot more momentum and a much better ritual for your success. So is that something that you do, Sedona? Do you have in advance a set of rewards that you give yourself? What exactly?
Yeah, no, that's not normally something. A lot of the opportunities and things that I have been offered and gained this year were completely out of the blue, never saw them coming. And so I think that's part of the reason that I don't really ever think of something to do with it and celebrate before it happens, because I don't normally see it coming. But I hope that's something that I can start to do in the next couple of years.
Well, start now. Start with 2018, right? Deciding what those outcomes are for 2018. Deciding, what do you give yourself when you reach those outcomes, and what's your particular reward, when you get those. Because here again, it's interesting, and there's a great expression I learned from Steve Linder. Being in that comfort zone is like crack. And what that means is that when we stay in this comfort zone, it's very easy to stay in this place. But what invariably happens, a significant emotional event happens. And what that means is that some sort of trauma happens, some sort of crisis happens, and then in essence, the quality of our life dips down. Can be so severe that that we make very significant changes in our life as a result of that, because we just don't like the pain. But the pain can also not be that severe, and you just stay in this zone that's tolerable. And that's perhaps one of the worst places to be, because the quality of life is down. Or even if you're in that comfort zone, right, the risk of getting to a place that's even worse than before, and you tolerate it, and so your quality of life really goes down. So understanding, taking taking an inventory of your emotions on a daily basis, on a weekly, monthly, and a yearly basis. Where is it that you typically find yourself? Is it a place of stress? Is it a place of anxiety? Is it a place of frustration, depression, sadness? Or is it truly a place of just comfort where it's okay, it's tolerable? Or is it truly, more often than not, a place of happiness and excitement and empowerment? And is it enough? And so taking stock of, what place do you find yourself in? And Tony Robbins brought up this idea of targets or zones. And it makes a differentiation between things that are important and things that are urgent. And so this is a little offshoot of what we feel on a regular basis. But it's interesting to decide, how much time are you really focused on the important things in life? And so being in the zone, as he puts it, is you're doing important things and they're not urgent. And you really want to be at least 60 to 70% of the time in that space, which means that you have to be organized, which means you have to be planning, which means that you have to be in a place of intention on a regular basis. You can't just let things happen, by chance. Obviously, when opportunity strikes and you're prepared for it, people call that luck, by the way, then of course you're going to take advantage of that. That's your bonus. That's your bonus for doing all the right things, working hard, being intentional, and everything else. But making sure that you do the important things and they're not quote unquote urgent. That place of crisis, of stress, the place where entrepreneurs live, that's a zone of stress where everything's important, everything's urgent. And it's a place of reacting to everything. It's sort of like you're behind the ball on everything in life and you're responding things urgently because they're important. And so that's a tough place to be. It's not a place where you can be totally present and really able to enjoy life, to its fullest extent, because you're always preoccupied of the next thing, what's going to happen next, versus just simply being present, in the moment, taking in the best of what nature has to provide, or people or relationships and those kinds of things. And so you're kind of cheating yourself. And again, it comes down to lack of planning, lack of intention, and lack of awareness of what's really important to you. Then there's that other zone that Tony Robbins called the zone of delusion. And that's that zone where everything's urgent, but it's not important. And so you start, doing stuff that you believe is really urgent, but it's really not important. And typically it's like cleaning up the office, and that's really a place where, you delude yourself that something's really important, but it's not. You make it urgent, and you lose out on getting focused on the important things. In my particular case, I just learned the other day that my environment has to be harmonious. So having a messy office like I have right now is not a good thing for me. So for me, it is actually important and urgent. And then there's that final one where it's a zone of distraction. It's a zone of it's not important and it's not urgent. And so in all fairness to you, deciding for yourself in advance for 2018, where do you want to spend your time? And having this as a reference point is very helpful. Because again, it comes down to awareness of self. What's your role in everything that you do? And having some qualifiers, some assessments, if you will, as to what's really happening. Instead of just going through all the rituals and the habits and doing the same things over and over again every single day, is really getting present to how you are being throughout the day. My coach just told me the other day that I need to do what's called the PQ reps, from Positive Intelligence, from Shamin Shirzad. It's a great book of positive intelligence, and it's really all about your self-awareness of all things. When you eat food, for example, just noticing the texture, the taste, and the moisture of the food. Having a much higher awareness of self. When you're sitting down, what does the seat, what does your back feel like? Just beginning to notice things at a much higher level. And these are key things because it allows us to be much more astute in the decisions that we make and therefore the experience that we have on a daily basis. And that's really important, because at the end of the day, another great quote from Tony Robbins, success without fulfillment is failure. So you could be extremely successful, but when you don't have that fulfillment, when you don't have that spiritual sense that your life has great meaning to you and it's in alignment with your spirit, then that's failure. And part of it, again, happens with you being present. It's your personal awareness of yourself and the environment that you're in. So taking that emotional inventory is key, and then deciding, great, where am I spending most of my time? Am I anxious? Am I stressed? And really giving yourself permission, to have these feelings. And this is my main platform in all things that I talk about, is, not making yourself wrong for being frustrated, to being angry, and not beating yourself up. The great quote from one of my interviewees, I forget who it was, but it struck me when she said, what if you treated everyone else the way you criticize yourself, the way that you beat yourself up? More than likely, you'd be without friends. And it's really true. And I think most of us beat ourselves up so much that we're really too hard on ourselves. So giving yourself permission to be human and just acknowledging the fact that, okay, I'm frustrated. Great. That's interesting. Or if you have a fight with your partner, then instead of, getting really upset afterwards and feeling that you're cheated or anything else, feeling that you are wronged or that you were criticized or insulted or demeaned, flipping it upside down and say, great, this is awesome, right? Because this is that opportunity to redirect your focus, redirect the meaning, finding a greater meaning of all this, and if anything else, just learning what could be different in your life, learning how you can respond differently in life, learning how you can dive into the greatness of that moment. And like some people, like I often hear, your worst moments can become your great moments if that becomes your choice. And in my life, that's always been my focus. And really understanding, how, not so much understanding, but making that decision that, a tough time, that this is just my training. This is my opportunity to expand myself, even though it really sucked at the time and I hated it. It's really knowing that there's something good going to come out of it. So when you look at 2017, ask yourself, what were the missed opportunities? What are the things that you missed out on that you could have, taken advantage of? And what specifically held you back? What specifically prevented you from optimizing or maximizing that opportunity? And then making that intention for 2018 that you're not going to let that happen. That if these opportunities showed up again, that you'll take advantage of them. Also understanding what motivates you, and where is the possibility of pain going to happen next year, and how is it that we can plan ahead so that we move away from that pain. And it's an interesting part of what drives us. And the desire to avoid pain and the desire to have pleasure, these are the forces within us that help us direct us to where we want to go. But here's the truth about pain. Pain is just very transient. It's temporary, typically. And so once the pain is gone, the motivation is gone. And so we really want to focus on what are the wins in 2018? What's going to be great about 2018? What is it that I want to experience in 2018? Who do I want to become in 2018? Who do I get to help? Who do I get to meet? All these things, writing out these questions and giving yourself those answers of what that can be all about. But then you're going to have to schedule it, because oftentimes, if you think of a great outcome and you don't schedule it, it's just a dream. It's not going to happen. And I forget exactly how many hours there are in a week, but there's 168 hours in a week, I believe. And if you don't schedule it, somebody else will. So if things don't happen, it's your own fault. And typically it's because you're not scheduling them. You're not making that final commitment to make things happen. And in scheduling, it's a matter of being smart when you schedule it. It's being realistic about scheduling things, about realistic as to what it's going to take to get these outcomes to happen. And so again, that's all on you. So if you look back at 2017, if you're honest with yourself and you realize, well, you know what, I didn't get all these things done, then you're only yourself to blame for that. Because again, in my particular case, I mean, I could talk to a variety of people that I work with and realize, how they kind of fell short in the things that they were supposed to deliver, but ultimately still up to me. It's up to me to make sure that they're scheduled, that they happen, and things don't happen. I've only got myself to blame for that. Finally, it's about awareness of what's not working. It's awareness of what you don't know. Asking the key question on a regular basis, at least once a week. What is it that I don't know? What is it that I don't see that's going to give me that success, that I can get that outcome? And getting help. I do strongly believe in coaching. Coaching is such an interesting term used today. It delivers many different responses from people. And it's so funny where even on mainstream media, people talk about coaching with a lot of disdain. And truthfully, I find what that really comes from, more than anything else, is a place that I was at one point, where I thought I was too good, too smart to get a coach. I trained for 17 years. I speak 4 languages, lived in 5 different countries. What's a freaking coach going to teach me? Especially somebody like Tony Robbins. I thought, he's just, a guy that talks a lot. He's a motivational speaker. And, what is he going to teach me? And I was very wrong about that. And all those people who call themselves coaches, you know what? Let's be honest. There's a lot of them out there that probably are not as good as they could be. Let me put it that way. I think everybody can become a great coach. And it's a matter of their personal integrity. But even having somebody else's perspective, even if they're a bad coach, having somebody else's perspective, there's a benefit out there, because it's still up to you to make those decisions whether things are going to happen or not, even if it's a bad coach. I can remember back in residency in plastic surgery, I learned just as much from, the professors that taught me what to do, as well as the professors that told me what not to do, because I just watched them and saw the results. And it's up to us to make that decision. I mean, you're in charge of your brain, you're in charge of your actions, you're in charge of your behavior. So it really comes down to you, and you can't blame anybody else, even a bad coach. But finding the right coach that you can get in alignment with, finding the right coach that's going to give you the results is key. And I think so many people out there are just so reluctant to make changes. Can't tell you how many times I've talked to, couples and asked them, would you want your relationship to be better? It says, oh no, it's perfect just the way it is. And then I can see the relationship isn't really that great, because people are afraid of change. People are just really, it's like I said, that comfort zone is like crack. People just want to stay there because they're unaware of the unknown, obviously, but they're scared of the unknown. And another great quote from Tony Robbins, life begins when you get outside of that comfort zone. And so where are you going to get out of your comfort zone in 2018? What is it that you're going to do for yourself? And think big. Too often people are telling us, oh, don't think that big. I can't tell you how many times people tell me, don't do all the things that you do. Well, I'd be totally bored if I did one thing. And so maybe I'm not as super successful in the things that I like to be, but that's my fault for not being as organized or as scheduled as I want to be. And it's just a matter of being honest with yourself, acknowledging that, doing something about it, setting a goal, getting disciplined, having strength of purpose, and deciding who you want to become. What's the legacy that you want to leave behind? Who do you care about? And also ultimately, who do you care about yourself? How do you care about yourself? and giving yourself the honor and the respect that you deserve to have the best possible life that's out there. And again, that's totally up to you. So 2018 is that opportunity for you to do that. So any last words from you, Sedona, as we slowly wrap up?
I definitely out next year and things that I want to accomplish, and I think I'm gonna go home and probably sit down and make a list now.
Yeah, do that. And anybody listening, just do that for yourself. Don't wait till the end. Don't wait till the beginning of January. Decide for yourself, what was great about 2017? What did you really enjoy about 2017? What is it that you didn't like? What is it that you don't want to repeat? What is it that you do want to repeat? What is it that you want more of? And really setting out that plan right now, not at the end of the year, because you know what happens? January 1st happens and it's back to all the routines again. And it's easy to forget what it is. You've got time right now to plan for 2018. And the key here again, for all of you listening, check in with yourself on a regular basis. Check in every week at the end of the week. Are you moving towards your goals? Are things happening? And are they on track to where you want to go? So I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, real people, real conversations, and real success. Looking forward to 2018, and thank you so much, Sedona, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening to Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Transformation. Join Dr. Bart Rademaker live right here on Radio Star Worldwide each week, or on demand 24/7.